Have you ever noticed those rare people who seem to wield an almost magical influence over their surroundings? Without uttering a single word, they don't shout, plead, or demand. Instead, they simply pull away, and suddenly the whole atmosphere shifts. The energy changes. People start to wonder, to chase, to feel something new. Now imagine if you did the same. What if you stopped reacting instantly to every little thing? What if you chose silence over the need to respond, retreat over explosion? What might happen then? This is where the real power lies. When you stop being endlessly available, emotionally, physically, mentally, the world around you begins to wobble. Why? Because people have long grown accustomed to controlling you through your reactions, your impulses, your predictable patterns. But the moment you step back, the game changes. Suddenly, those who thought they had you all figured out realize they knew nothing at all. Carl Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to a better understanding of ourselves." Now reflect on this. When you become unreachable, who truly loses control? Who gets frustrated, desperate, or even angry, trying to stir you up just to draw a reaction? That desperation reveals far more about them than it does about you. It exposes how much they relied on manipulating you, often without your awareness. You keep handing yourself over to keep the peace, to avoid losing people who were never fully present for you anyway. With every forced yes, every knee-jerk reaction, every emotional outburst, you surrender a piece of your energy. By day's end, what's left? Exhaustion, frustration, an emptiness you can't quite put your finger on. Here's the truth. You've been too available for those who don't even deserve a single moment of your silence. But this isn't about turning your back on the world. It's about choosing you. It's about embracing what Jung called individuation, the journey to become whole, authentic, and complete. This journey begins when you realize silence can be mightier than 1,000 arguments, when withdrawal isn't about running away, but about reclaiming your power. So look closely at yourself now. How much longer will you let your emotions be puppeteered by others? How long will you dance to the tune of every poke and prod into your wounds? Maybe it's time to sever those strings, to pull back, to become a mystery once again. Because when you stop being available, everything changes. Since childhood, you've been taught to always be there, to respond quickly, to say yes when you want to say no, to please others as if your value depended on it. But here's a truth no one tells you. Excessive availability isn't a strength, it's a cage. As long as you believe you must be accessible, emotionally or otherwise, you'll be drained, manipulated, and discarded the moment you're no longer useful. Why? Because predictability is a tool others use to press their emotional emergency button whenever they want validation, attention, or comfort. Then shelve you when you're done. You don't see this because you're caught in the illusion that being present for everyone will make someone present for you. But that's a myth. Carl Jung described the persona, the mask we wear to be accepted, loved, and recognized. This very mask keeps you trapped in being overly available. You say okay when you're suffocating. You answer messages instantly even when you're exhausted. You justify, explain, defend, as if you owe the world something. But the harsher truth is, the more you put yourself center stage in others' lives, the more you fade from your own. Being always available is a subtle form of self-abandonment. It's a disguised plea for approval, a desperate dodge from rejection, a way to control how others see you. But that control comes at a steep price. Your peace, your energy, your very life force, treated as if endless when it's anything but. Those who demand your constant availability don't want you. They want the validation, the distraction, the emotional crutch you provide. So when you finally set a boundary, refuse to react, or pull back, those same people get irritated. They accuse you, call you strange, not because you've changed, but because you stopped being their predictable supply, functional for them. And here's the cruelest point. The more available you are, the less value others give you. Because what is too abundant becomes the emotional rag. No one respects what they don't have to earn. No one values what is always there. So now stop and think. Who truly deserves your time? Who deserves your attention, your presence, your listening? Or better yet, who deserves your absence? But before answering that, we need to understand one essential thing. Why do we react so much? Why do we give in so easily? What is behind this almost automatic desire to respond, justify, and please? The answer lies in what Carl Jung called psychic energy, and that is what we will talk about in the next part. Because your energy is all you have, and if you don't learn to protect it, someone will use it against you. If this content is making sense to you, click the subscribe button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your support. Carl Jung did not see the human psyche as an automatic machine that reacts to stimuli without consequences. For him, our mind is like an energy system, and every thought, emotion, and action consumes a part of that energy. The question is, are you choosing where your energy goes, or are you letting the world decide for you? Every time you react impulsively, you are wasting psychic energy. When you defend yourself against criticism that didn't even deserve attention, when you respond to provocation just to prove you are right, when you engage in useless discussions, when you try to please those who do not value you, you are spending your inner strength on what does not nourish you. And Jung was clear that which you resist persists. The more you react, the more you bind yourself. People who live emotionally drained are not weak, they are misdirected. And do you know what happens to someone who lives exhausted? They become vulnerable. And when you are vulnerable, you become easy prey. Manipulative, opportunistic, and emotionally needy people can sense this. They notice that you do not know how to guard your energy, that you react to everything, that you're always trying to solve the world, and they take advantage of it. Jung said that a healthy psyche is one that knows how to keep energy within the system. This means knowing how to say no without guilt, knowing how to remain silent without feeling cowardly, knowing how to observe before acting. Because true power is not in reacting, it is in choosing when and how to act. And this is only possible when you know yourself well enough to recognize your own impulses. How many times have you lost sleep over an unresolved conversation? How many times have you spent hours ruminating on what you should have said or trying to understand why someone treated you poorly? This is energy being drained without return. You are keeping alive ghosts that should have died long ago and feeding dynamics that only exist because you insist on responding. Psychic energy is like a force field. When well guarded, it creates presence. You enter a room and command respect without saying a word. But when poorly managed, you become invisible, reactive, fragile. And the world has no mercy for those who give in easily. Therefore, start observing your own triggers. What makes you react automatically? What makes you lose your center? These are the exact points where your energy escapes, and that is where you need to work. Not to become cold or indifferent, but to be selective, to be sovereign over yourself. And here comes one of Jung's greatest revelations. When you conserve your energy, you break the projections that others place upon you. And that bothers a lot, because now we are entering a dark territory, that of silent manipulation. In the next part, we will explore how opportunistic people feed off your energy and why your unavailability completely disarms these games. Get ready to look into the eyes of those who have always drained you without you realizing it. You think you are in control. You believe your reactions are conscious choices, but the truth is darker. Most of your emotional responses are programmed, and those who understand this manipulate you easily. Opportunistic people don't need to raise their voices, threaten, or force situations. They just trigger the buttons you've left exposed, and you react always. Carl Jung called this projection the psychological mechanism through which people project onto others what they cannot see in themselves. But there is another side to this phenomenon that few notice. While others project onto you, you also become the receptacle for these images. And the more emotionally available you are, the more you become a blank canvas for these projections. You know that friend who only reaches out when they are in crisis? That partner who always needs you to save the day? That person who praises you but only as long as you are useful to them? None of this is by chance. They are not relating to you. They are relating to the idea of you, the role you agree to play. And why do you agree? Because you are afraid of disappointing, afraid of not being loved. The most effective manipulation is often abandoned. Manipulation doesn't happen in shouting. It happens in the silence of guilt. When you feel that you owe something to the other, when you believe you need to be available, to help, to understand, even if it destroys you inside. Here is the central point. The manipulator doesn't need to control you, they just need you to keep reacting the same way. But when you stop reacting, the game breaks. When you start saying no, responding with silence, withdrawing instead of explaining yourself, the projections begin to crumble. The mask they put on you falls. This unsettles people because they no longer know who you are. Worse, now they are forced to look at themselves, and not everyone is prepared for that. Your unavailability is a threat because it forces others to confront their own emptiness. The silence you offer reveals the internal noise they don't want to hear. Then comes the attack, the criticism, the emotional drama, not because you are wrong, but because you stop serving as a convenient mirror. Jung said, "We do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." When you withdraw, when you stop feeding the cycle, the other's shadow begins to emerge. This is unbearable for those who have always used you as an escape. But what about you? Are you ready to deal with the discomfort of being misunderstood, rejected, or even attacked for protecting yourself? Are you ready to endure the silence that comes after the rupture? Because it is precisely in that silence that a new kind of power is born. That is what we will talk about now. You will understand why silence can be the most devastating weapon of the human psyche and how it completely changes the dynamic between you and the world. The modern world is noisy. Everyone wants to be heard, wants to respond quickly, wants to win pointless debates and prove their point, even if it costs them their own peace. But there is a power that few know, and even fewer master, the power of silence. Not the silence of passivity or cowardice, but conscious, strategic, brutally lucid silence. The kind of silence that is not absence, but amplified presence. Jung saw silence not as a void, but as fertile ground for inner transformation. When you stop reacting, you begin to observe. By observing, you see patterns that previously went unnoticed. Emotional repetitions, manipulation games, cycles of self-sabotage. Silence allows for lucidity, and lucidity is dangerous for those who live to control. Have you noticed how some people panic when you don't respond? When you don't explain yourself? When you simply disappear? It's not because they miss you, it's because your silence takes away their narrative control. While you speak, you are still in the game. But when you are silent, you change the rules. And that unbalances anyone who thrives on your reaction. True silence is not the absence of voice. It is mastery over one's own energy. It is the refusal to be dragged down by someone else's emotions. It is the conscious choice not to engage in battles that are not worth your wear. Jung said that individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are, requires this distancing because only in silence can you listen to yourself without the world's interference. But don't be fooled. Silence has a price. It will distance you from people who only valued you for the role you played. It will make you incomprehensible to those who only saw you through their own projections. It will make you seem cold, distant, arrogant. But all of this is a reaction from those who never wanted to deal with your depth, only with your utility. Here is the hard truth. The more you mature, the more selective you become with your words, because you understand that each sentence is an energetic investment, and not everyone deserves access to your truth. Sometimes silence is not retreat, it is sovereignty. It is the language of those who no longer need to prove anything to anyone. Silence is uncomfortable because it forces the other to deal with their own thoughts, with their own internal noise. And this discomfort reveals more about them than any argument of yours ever could. You don't need to explain your absence. It explains itself. And those who feel threatened by it reveal how much they depended on your imbalance to maintain their own control. But the most powerful silence is not the one that disturbs the other. It is the silence that reconstructs you from within. The silence that connects you to something beyond external approval. It is in this internal space, free from others' demands, that you begin to recover your vital energy, to reconnect with your essence. This is precisely what we will talk about in the next part. Because it's not enough to just cut out external noise. You need to relearn how to use your energy consciously, to choose where it goes, where it stays, and most importantly, where it should never be wasted. It's time to learn to be selective with your own soul. If you're in the process of reclaiming your energy and setting boundaries, you'll find real value in my book, Beyond the Shadow. It breaks down Jung's most important ideas and gives you tools to protect your energy, set boundaries, and reconnect with your true self. The link is in the pinned comment. It's no use understanding all of this intellectually if in practice you continue saying yes when you mean no, responding to messages that bother you, participating in empty conversations, and maintaining relationships that only exist out of inertia. Awareness without action is just another form of self-deception. True transformation begins when you firmly decide to become selective, and this requires emotional discipline. Conscious unavailability is not about being cold, arrogant, or indifferent. It's about no longer being accessible to anyone at any time for any reason. It's about taking control of your own energy, your own time, your own peace. And this starts with small actions. Respond instantly by pausing, a deliberate breath before reaction. Step away from conversations before chaos can pull you under. Switch off your phone without a trace of guilt, whispering to yourself, "Not today." Decline the drama with quiet strength. "No, I'm not interested. I choose not to get involved." But here's the sacred truth. You owe no one an explanation for your absence. You owe no justification for your silence. You belong only to yourself. For many, this refusal to explain is intolerable because it strips away their power to trap you in the endless loop where you're the ever available, the endlessly understanding, the always accessible one. Carl Jung spoke of individuation as a journey through isolation, not a bleak loneliness, but a sacred retreat inward, a time to relearn the art of listening to your own voice, free from the noise and demands of the world, a time to rebuild your identity, not reflected in others' eyes, but rooted deep within your own core. Want a barometer for your growth? Watch who drifts away as you become more reserved. Notice who stirs the pot when you no longer react. Listen to who accuses you of changing when you finally begin to protect your own peace. These aren't signs you're wrong. They are proof you're breaking free. Being unavailable feels raw and uncomfortable at first. Guilt will shadow your steps. Whispers will call you selfish or harsh. But this discomfort is the crucible of transformation. You've spent a lifetime conditioned to put yourself last. So change will ripple not just within you, but through everyone who thrived on your old self. Conscious unavailability is the cornerstone of self-sovereignty. When you say no to the world, you're saying yes to yourself. When you step away from toxicity, you're declaring your peace more valuable than any counterfeit connection. And when you stop explaining yourself, you begin to command respect, even if only from a few. Not everyone is ready for this kind of presence. Your emotional absence will uncover wounds they never wanted to face. It will expose how much they depended on your turmoil to feel in control. That's when the break comes, and with it, the sting of loneliness, the ache of estrangement, the illusion of loss. But in truth, you're not losing anything. You're freeing yourself. What follows the distancing? What blooms in the silence? That is the rebirth we will explore next. The renaissance that happens only when you dare to be misunderstood, to walk alone, and to become whole within yourself. It's time to grasp why the solitude of the strong is the path to genuine freedom. When you stop being everyone's go-to, something profound awakens inside. At first, silence screams, a deafening void that makes you question everything. Did I do the right thing? Am I too cold? Am I losing those who cared? Slowly, that silence softens. It cleanses, calms, heals. Then comes solitude, not the absence of company, but the fullness of presence. Your presence, wholly owned. The solitude of the strong, of those who refuse to betray themselves just to keep others near. In that sacred space where confusion once reigned, clarity blooms. Where anxiety gripped, peace now flows. Where neediness lived, a new strength arises. The strength of being complete on your own. Carl Jung said individuation, becoming your true self, requires stepping away from the crowd, shedding the masks, and walking alone for a while. This is exactly what you're doing when you choose unavailability. You're not running from the world, you're returning to yourself. In this place, You cease to be a reactor and become a creator. No longer shaped by circumstance, you begin shaping your reality from within. Those unsettled by your absence reveal their true desire. They never wanted you, only the role you played. And now that you no longer fit their script, they don't know what to do with you. And that, my friend, is true liberation. You will lose people, but you will gain yourself. You will lose some people, but in that loss, you will find yourself. You'll step away from familiar places, yet draw closer to the very essence of who you are. You may become misunderstood, but at last you will command respect. Because when you stop being endlessly available, when you no longer hand out your presence like spare change, you become rare, precious, unforgettable. Don't be fooled. This is no ordinary change. This is a rebirth, a fresh dawn where you no longer settle for emotional crumbs, for mind games masked as affection, for hollow spaces pretending to be connection. Now you only welcome what harmonizes with your peace, what echoes your truth, what strengthens your wholeness. If you've come this far, it's because a part of you is already awake. A part that knows being loved means nothing if it demands you abandon yourself. True self-love begins here, when you choose you, even if it means standing alone for a while. So tell me, are you ready to be misunderstood, rejected, even hated, all for the sake of your inner freedom? Are you willing to pay the price of simply being yourself? If this message stirs something in you, if it resonates, write in the comments. I choose my peace. Let's see how many are ready to step into this transformation. And don't stop here. Keep watching the next video. It's more important than you realize. I'll see you there.